Martise can come around the screen, get in the lane, step back jumper on the way. Got it. Offensive rebound, Alex White. Putback is good.
It's center court with Charlie Ernst on 88.3 WLFC.
Martise needs to pick it up, sends it ahead to Ricardo. Ricardo to Terrence Sullivan, who slams it down with one hand.
Join Coach Ernst and the Oilers on Air team as they take a look back at the week that was, discuss what's happening around the conference, and preview the week ahead.
Back over to Alex White. Alex, kick out to Elijah. Nick will launch it from downtown. Nick Rusatz buries it from three.
Now, let's join men's basketball coach Charlie Ernst and the voice of Oiler basketball, Jason Granger.
Hello and welcome to Center Court with Charlie Ernst. My name's Jason Granger. Got two more big games coming up this week, Saginaw Valley and Wayne State. We'll have a lot to talk about on those two matchups. First, we'll bring in the coach. Want to talk about our last three ball games. A 5-game homestand, coach, and you get 3 wins, score over 100. Both those are all 3 of those games.
Well, yeah. Anytime you can play opponents where you can get a lot of guys on the floor, look at a lot of lineups. Even though we're 13 games into the season, still things can change with our team, and things are changing with our team. And I think getting an opportunity to see those lineups in bigger segments than 2 minutes here or 2 minutes there. We were able to look at some lineups for extended periods of time and give those guys a chance to play through mistakes. Sometimes when you play really good teams, you play subs until they make a mistake, and sometimes it only takes 2 or 3 minutes. And I think sometimes fans want you to let those kids play through those mistakes, but in the GLIAC, that's awfully hard to do when so many of the games come down to the last possession of the game. You have to treat every possession as the most important possession, and you can't always do that when you play tight GLIAC games. So we were able to play a lot of guys, a lot of minutes, and so I think that in that way these games served a great purpose going forward for our team.
Well, and that's really where I came away the most impressed. I think a lot of fans might look at it and say, well, you got 106, 109, and 120 and really be excited about the points you're putting up. But when you look inside the game, looking back, I can only think of one time where you had to call timeout, really regroup your guys from the way they were playing on defense. I thought the guys were focused no matter who was in the lineup.
Yeah, that's the challenge for the coaches, is to keep the team sharp, and like I told the players way back, Jason, when we came back from Christmas break, I had done the math, and we had 10 practices from the 2 days before we played Trevecca until Wayne State, after the Wayne State game. We had 10 days in there, 5 practices, 5 games. So I said, here's the thing. We have to treat every game. If our goal when we practice is to get better every day, the same goal is there whether you're playing a game or practicing. So while the opponents, maybe weren't quite as good as we were, the goal remained the same, and that is to get better than we were the day before. And to do that, you have to keep your guys sharp. You have to keep them focused on what we're trying to accomplish. I think for the most part, our guys did a pretty good job of that.
It certainly did. It started on a Thursday night against Trevecca Nazarene, and coming into that game, we had beat them before, and the game was a good game down in Nashville where it was back and forth for a while. And we did come away with a 22-point win, but I felt like at times it was closer than that, and figured coming in here with them maybe seeing us for that one time they might have a little bit of a different game plan, but we came out, smoked them right from the start, got up early, and then never looked back.
Well, I'm not sure going back to what you said, I think I agree. We expected a team, and I think our players were expecting that. They knew that Trevecca had a lot of quality players, had competed awfully well against a lot of good teams. And, but I think when that game started and they started a lineup of 5 players that really we expected to play very little in that game. So not only did they bring their best players off the bench, and I'm not sure if that was a discipline thing or if that had something else going on there, but then also maybe their best matchup for Taryn, Percy Blade, didn't even make the trip. And so, you add all those things together. They're a young team. We jumped on them early, made some shots, got them back on their heels, and it snowballed from there.
You brought up jumping on them early, and I think that's something that you look back over our success over the years, as long as you've been here as an assistant and then a head coach, is something that Findlay's kind of known for. When we come out and we jump on teams right away, we're very tough to beat, especially at home, and that's the one comment here. We shoot on nearly 60% in the first half in all 3 of these ball games. That goes a long way.
Well, we can shoot. That's one thing about our team is we've got some guys that can really fill it up. And I think the thing I like is that I really think even in all three of these wins, we haven't taken a lot of bad shots, a lot of selfish shots. And there's a major tendency for that to happen when you're scoring points at the clip that we've been scoring them. So I think that as long as the guys continue to share the ball, pass up good shots to find great shots, treat every possession as we're trying to get the best shot for our team, not the best shot for a certain player. And I think our guys are obviously in a good frame of mind on the offensive end right now.
Terrence Sullivan came away very impressed with his play because I think a lot of times when you get in these games where you're clear the best player on the floor, you can kind of maybe take a step back and not put the full effort forward. He certainly did that both in scoring. He had 25, 13, and 17 in those 3 games, and then he rebounded well. He had averaged 5 assists in those 3 ball games.
Well, I think that's the thing. Terran's a tough player to take away, because he's kind of like taking LeBron away. That's not easy to do because he rebounds the ball so well on defense, and then he leads the break. And he puts pressure on the defense because he pushes it hard, and he's a tremendous passer. Maybe one of the best parts of his game. But I think his development on the defensive boards has really helped his offense. And not to mention, I think he has a really good feel on the offensive end, always has, but now he's starting to develop a feel on terms of where he fits into our offense, how he can hurt teams, where he can hurt them at. I think having a little bit of an inside game to complement his perimeter game. So really, our fans are seeing, a full-scale maturation process going on for Terrence Sullivan this season.
And Elijah Collick as well was impressive. He went 14 of 20 from 3 in these last 3 ball games, and certainly that's only going to be good news for everyone else on the floor as well.
Well, and he's been right there. I mean, he's been shooting the ball that way in practice all year. And so he's one of these guys, and I go back, we've always had these guys, Nate Hyde, Tyson McLaughlin, Mark Bishop, Tyler Evans. The list goes on in terms of guys that every time they shoot, you expect them to make it. And part of that comes from the fact that you watch them practice every day, and you watch how many shots they make in practice every day. And at times, really this year and in the last couple years, he's had a game here or there where he's shotting it like that. But now he's starting to do it consistently, which is what we see in practice. And I think, he's shooting it well. But the thing I like about Elijah is that he's doing other things well. He checks out all the time, takes care of the ball. He understands scouting report, and he's just that stable. What you're going to get from him in so many other parts of the game. And I think, he's only a junior, so he's continuing to get better every night out.
He certainly is. And Elijah, like we said, outstanding, 14 of 20 from downtown in these last 3 ball games. Hope that continues here on Thursday and Saturday. But you got to play your bench a lot, and that's very important as we get down the stretch. You're going to need these players. You're going to need somebody each and every game probably to step up. And I think probably the most likely is going to be Cat Singleton. And I thought Cat played very consistent, but the great thing about these 3 games, he got a little extra time, little opportunity to maybe show what else he can do.
Well, he's a lot like Elijah from the standpoint of, he's very steady. You know what you're going to get when you put him in, and I think he's starting to develop some aggressiveness on the offensive end, and that's what we need. His ability to play 2 positions is important on this team. And he's a good rebounder. That's the other piece of Ketwan that's important. We don't have a lot of, guys that you can count on to get 10, 12 rebounds a game. So it's got to happen by committee, and it's got to happen sometimes by unlikely sources. And I think that's one of the things he does well. And it's one of the things that this team's going to need from him each and every night out.
And Trey Smith as well. He's only played 5 or 6 ball games and continues to get better each and every time out and showing a little bit of what he can do. I think when we first saw him, he was only playing a handful of minutes. I think everyone just thought he was a defensive player. He's certainly very good there, but now starting to show he can be a weapon on offense.
Well, he can make shots, and I think I'm not even worried about that because we've played him a lot as a scout team too, and he has made a lot of shots. He can make threes. He's got a tremendous little pull-up game, and obviously his jets can get him to the basket. But I think for him, it's just that continual development, managing the game, limiting turnovers. He's done a good job of that. I know he had a couple last night that he'd like to have back. But really, that doesn't really concern me. He's going to have important matchups this weekend. Both of our point guards will, containing the ball, because that's always where the defensive end of the floor. It always starts at the point, and your ability to get down in a stance and rat the point guard, contain the point guard. We've got enough depth there that we need to take advantage of what we have there, because that's where things start.
Aaron Overheiser played 20 minutes in all three of these games. I think that's very important. Aaron's a player that you're going to need in the second half of the season. I think the interesting thing about Aaron is he rebounds the ball very well, but you see that there's a lot of potential, especially in the post. You just want to kind of slow him down sometimes. It's like his mind's working a little too hard.
Yeah, I think Aaron's an interesting project for our coaches, and he's a kid that I think about a lot. He's got a lot of ability. He was playing awfully, awfully well early in the season, especially in our scrimmages. I go back to those and I say, man, so what's the difference? How do we get him back to that? And I think that's our challenge as a coach. Maybe he's got too much information swimming through his head right now. Maybe we need to scale back on what we run when he's in the game. Keep the game simple. Get him confident again. Get him just playing. He actually plays better when he just plays. When he overanalyzes and overthinks, it takes away the few things that he does very well right now. And I don't mean to minimize, when I say few things, but he's like a lot of freshmen. There's a lot of parts of the game, but you look at a guy like Taryn. Look at how far he's come in 2 years. He was mostly just a guy that shot threes when he was a freshman. Now he's a guy doing all the things, but that takes time. That takes a lot of playing time. And so I think for Aaron, we just have to keep him doing the simple things and doing those well and not get caught up in trying to do too much. And I think that's a challenge for me as a head coach. I got to get him back to that frame of mind where he was at 2 months ago. And if we can do that, he's going to be a big key going forward.
I thought it was good to see Chaz George get a number of minutes, too. And I think Chaz is a guy he's played all the way through the season, a couple minutes here or there, and some opportunities to have maybe 5 or 6. And really in that Carlow game, I thought that was where Chaz, maybe the game started to slow down just a hair for Chaz. He had 12 points. He had 6 rebounds. He was active on defense. I think he had 4 steals in that game. And I think the fans started to see the type of player that Chaz can be.
Well, Chaz is another one that's interesting in that I feel like as a coach, we're still trying to figure out as a coaching staff where he's best suited going forward. We have played him a lot at the 3 spot, but some days I feel like maybe the 4 might be a better spot for him. He's strong, he's physical, he's athletic. So we're still trying to figure him out, but he got a lot of playing time. And the most important thing he did that I'm proud of is we ask our players, especially our young guys, you got to get better every night out. That should be your goal. Get better each day. And it's not going to be big jumps, but if you look at the 3 games, Jason, I think you could honestly say that his worst game of the 3 that we just played was the Trevecca game. And his best one was the Carlow game. And I thought he got a little bit better each game. And I think that shows how important playing time is, and I think it shows that he's got a lot of potential and he's buying into what we're telling him.
No doubt about it. The Oilers get 3 huge victories scoring-wise at home. The fans loved it, and the Oilers now stand 10-3 overall, 4-2 in the GLIAC, and 2 huge ball games coming up on Thursday and Saturday. Saginaw Valley on Thursday, Wayne State on Saturday. We'll talk about it when we return on Center Court. This is 88.3 WLC.
Only 0.5% of all high school student athletes play basketball in college, but all 100% of them become adults. That's why playing basketball in their high school team is so important. High school athletes learn life lessons that help them grow up, lessons that can't be taught in the classroom and often aren't taught at home. This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Check out my new time machine.
Does it work?
Hit the button.
Hey, it's Napoleon.
Oui. Check out the future.
Hey, you have a nice house. Why don't I?
You didn't save any money, buddy.
If only there was a way I could go back in time and fix that.
Yeah.
Save something for the future. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1,000,000. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's
Feed the pig.
GLIAC.org.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Hey, Nick Cannon here. So we all know we've got a lot of talent in America, but unfortunately there's something else we've got way too much of: childhood hunger. 17 million kids struggle with it in this country. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gather surplus food to give hope to hungry kids and their families. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Martise will come around the screen, get in the lane, step back jumper on the way, got it.
Join us Thursday night when the Oiler basketball teams return to conference action, hosting the Cardinals from Saginaw Valley State University.
Stolen away by Boner. Great pass over to Horseman. Horseman up and into two.
Jason Granger will have all the action from Croy Physical Education Center. Women's pregame at 5:15, tip-off at 5:30, men's game immediately following.
Sullivan from way downtown buries it!
This is your home for Oiler basketball, 88.3 WLFC.
Welcome back to Center Court. Jason Granger here with you. We're joined by the coach, Charlie Ernst. And, Coach, we talked about it. You get the 3 wins on this 5-game homestand, and now you get the 2 big ones. I think everyone expected those 3 wins to start, and now you bring in the 2 big dogs in the north, and Saginaw Valley. It probably doesn't get any bigger than them. They're ranked in the top 25. Certain polls have them in the top 10, and they're coming to town. And this is a team that really returns just about everyone off of an Elite 8 performance.
Yeah, they were a team a year ago, played 9 or 10 guys, and with the exception of 1 guy, were all juniors and seniors. So they graduated 4 seniors, all good players. I think more perimeter-oriented type players, guys that really set the table on the defensive end for them. And this year they return 5 seniors, 4 of them start, and mostly are interior type players or strong, physical, thick kids. Not all of them, but most of them. And I think it's a veteran team. I think they start 4 seniors, and so they've won a lot of games, this group together. I think they believe in themselves. They play with a swagger, and I think it'll be a challenge for us. We got a huge win against them a year ago, and it was a win, I thought, that really catapulted us, believing we could beat anyone on our schedule, and really it sort of turned out that way. So, this game not only means a lot in the current, but I think it is that type of game that can do a lot for you moving forward.
I think we talk about this just about with every team. Every team in the GLIAC especially has that guy, and some teams have multiple guys, and I think C.J. Turnage is that player for Saginaw that comes in with the potential to be the best player in the league. We always talk about that, and he's been outstanding. Even as a freshman, he came in and made his mark on this conference, and he's finally a senior. He's averaging almost 15 points per game.
Well, I think he goes back to the last couple of years, the GLIAC Player of the Year has been the guy that's averaged like 25 a game or 22 a game, 21 a game, But and those guys all deserve it. I don't want to take anything away from those players that have gotten that honor because we had one of those. But C.J. Turnage is one of those players that you have to game plan against, and it's not just because he scores points. It's because he leads them in transition at times. He's a great passer, unselfish player. He's a guy that when the going gets tough for them, they're going to simplify things and just put the ball in his hands. And he's going to get fouled. He's going to go to the line. Now, whether he makes free throws or not, that remains to be seen. But he gets players in foul trouble, and that's a concern of mine. I think then the other thing is when you start to pay too much attention to him, he gets other guys, that are less capable of creating their own shot. He gets them shots. And so that's why he's such a weapon. That's where the game plan always starts when you play Saginaw, is how you want to defend him. And if you've got a good matchup for him, then you give yourself a much better chance of winning.
C.J. Turner's 15 points per game, 8 rebounds a game, and 3 assists per game. Outstanding player. And one of those guys he gets involved is Garrett Hall, and he's a leading scorer, 16 points per game. I think he's really taken his game to the next level. He's a great 3-point shooter as well.
And he's a thick, strong player. Lefty, plays with a lot of confidence on offense. Another guy, going to be a tough matchup for us. They get those 2 guys in 2-man games at times, where they set a screen and they let you decide, do you want to switch that? How do you want to defend this little action? And they just get their 2 best players involved with it and kind of challenge you to decide how you want to guard it. And so there's nothing fancy about it. but it's 2 seniors, 2 4-year starters, 2 awfully good offensive players. He's mostly a shooter, but strong enough to get to the basket and finish through contact. So both are very good veteran players, the kind of guys you'd expect to see in this conference.
And it's an interesting lineup that Saginaw puts out there. In a lot of ways, it's almost 5 centers, but Caleb Davis is very tall, at about 6'9", but he shoots threes. He's more of a stretch forward. And Wade Gelhaus out of Fort Recovery, he's been starting every ball game. Both those guys can have some matchup nightmares for opposing teams.
Well, what's interesting is early in his career, C.J. Turnage, he played some center for him, and now he's playing a lot of 3. So I think it tells you how big and strong they are. I mean, this kid, Turnage probably goes 6'5", 6'6", probably weighs 225 pounds, and he's their 3. You mentioned Wade Gelhaus and Caleb Davis. Those guys are both former centers. So to your point, yes, they have 3 guys that in some ways could be considered centers that are going to start. Now, while you have to be prepared for that, we anticipate that the lineup we're going to see a lot more of might only include 2 of those guys because they go to their bench early and often. But if we can't defend the big lineup, who knows? We might see more of it. So be an interesting cat and mouse game. I'm sure they're spending time thinking about that, and obviously that's going to be our attention this week, is how we want to attack them and how we want to make them small. In other words, do we play a small lineup hoping they go small, or would we rather see their big lineup? And so I think that's the challenge for me as a head coach, is to try to decide what kind of game we want to play against them.
Well, I think where it gets interesting with Saginaw Valley is in their rotation, really just an 8 or 9-man rotation. But Malik Gardner is a freshman playing 25 minutes a game, and he's averaging almost 9 a game. An outstanding player, Jake Daniels as well, has averaged 7. So they got 2 freshmen that have played well here in the early season.
Well, the Garner kid especially, because he's going to play a lot. In fact, he'll be one of the guys that when the buzzer sounds the first time, he's going to be one of the guys coming into the game. So he's going to play a lot of minutes. The Daniels kid is mostly a shooter. So we have to identify where he's at when he's in the game, because that's really what he's in the game to do, is to make threes. So, they'll play Mike Wells, who's a quick little point guard, one of the smaller, faster players we'll see this year. They'll play him and Garner together with some of those bigs. So it's kind of an interesting mix and contrast of players. They'll put some real size on the floor along with some real quickness, and not a lot in between that. There's going to be some interesting matchups individually, but also within the framework of the game, maybe more than any game we're going to play this year.
I think this is a game and really a weekend where you find out a lot about your team, because I think a lot of times we do these shows and we have these talks, there's usually you can identify a weakness on paper, and I'm not sure there's a weakness with Saginaw Valley. This is a team that very big. You mentioned it, physical, athletic. They can shoot it too. They can defend. This is a complete team.
It is a complete team, and anytime you have 4 seniors in your starting lineup, especially when you've had the success they've had, that's usually ingredients to have a consistent all-around team, a team that it's tough to find weaknesses, and you don't necessarily work too hard at searching for them. You focus on what you need to do, what their strengths are maybe, and you try to minimize those strengths as best you can. And really, I think that's what you try to do when you play them. You look for weaknesses. You're probably not going to find many, if any at all. So what you do is you identify their strengths and you try to minimize those and try to take them away from being great strengths in this game. And I think that's what really our goal will be in this game.
Thursday, Saginaw Valley, 7:30 start. Want to encourage everybody to get out there. And then Saturday, it doesn't get any easier. Saginaw Valley, outstanding as well, but outstanding team. But then Saturday, Wayne State comes in, and they're leading the GLIAC. And I think maybe fans look at it and they might be a little surprised. Wayne State's been down over the years, but this team's kind of been working for that, and it's good to see. It's good for the league that Wayne State's good, because they're always they're one of the traditional teams. But boy, it's going to be a tough matchup on Saturday.
Well, it is, and really, when you look at Wayne State, they've done it, and this is a real credit to their coaching staff, and especially Coach Greer, who I really enjoy him. I like him. I think he does a great job. I've always been impressed with his teams, but he has persevered with this group. a group that, quite honestly, in the last 2 years hasn't won a lot of games. And in fact, we beat them last year in the last game of the regular season at Wayne State by almost 30 points, I think. And we've never done that. And you'd think, okay, well, they must be much better. I'm going to go to the box score and I'm going to find a lot of new guys. And what you're going to find is you're not going to find any new guys. This is the same group, but they've gotten back to playing Wayne State basketball. Really getting after it on the defensive end, pressuring the ball, taking away easy entries into offense, and then getting it inside. And when they're not a tremendous shooting team, but they make enough shots, and they're okay to win by 2. They've been opportunistic at winning games, in low-scoring games, winning close games, and then finally, just tremendous rebounding team. They throw it up at the rim and they go get it, and it's going to be a real challenge for us, because that's the one area of our team right now that concerns me the most is our rebounding ability. And if we can shore that up, then there's a lot of things we can do with this group of guys to present problems for other teams. But we have to prove, I think, day in and day out, that includes practices, that we can withstand the barrage we're going to get from teams going to the offensive boards on us.
You mentioned a lot of the things from Wayne State that reminded me of all those old teams that we had great battles with time and time again in the GLIAC tournament, regional tournament. That great rebounding team, great defensive team, but they don't make mistakes. And you look at this team, they don't make a whole lot of mistakes, and it makes it tough. If you want to come in and you can say, well, we're going to run up and down the floor with Wayne State, we're going to run them out, it's just not going to happen. They're going to play you tight the entire way.
They are, and they're going to be hard-nosed on defense. They're going to make it tough on us. We got to be ball strong, meaning when you catch the ball against them, you're not going to find it easy to go by them. And if you do, they're going to have great help side. So you got to have a mentality that you're not going to be able to score in the first 12 seconds against them, and that's okay. We've got to, and I think that's where having some balance is going to be important. And so. But, we're in a good frame of mind right now. We talked about all the things that these teams have going for them. And I think for us, we have to focus on what we do well and find ways to bring those out for our own team, and find ways to make it tough to guard us. And right now we are tough to guard. But I think a lot of what makes us tough to guard is when we get stops on defense and we can get in transition, we are really good. And, but you can't do that if the team's scoring against you consistently. So we've got to keep the pace of play where we want it, and it starts on the defensive end.
A huge opportunity this weekend, and then really you don't want to put too much on any one or two ball games, but really there's a lot riding on this. Wayne State 5-0, Saginaw 4-1, and there's Findlay at 4-2, and this can go a long way in determining the outcome of the season.
It can, and we got to go after this weekend and not worry about Wayne State. Our focus is solely on Saginaw, like it would be on any GLIAC Thursday, Saturday series. These are two good teams that are going to be, right there at the end of the year in March. Come GLIAC seeding, come GLIAC tournament time, they're both going to have a say in the North. And so these crossover games are awfully important because they, in many cases, become tiebreaker games. And on top of that, they're big in-region games. So, this is the last 2 North Division crossover games we have this year. So, big opportunity for us. We have them both at home.
And I think a big opportunity for our fans. Not going to see any better basketball, especially in small college here in the state of Ohio, than what you're going to have an opportunity to see on Thursday and Saturday. And we've had pretty good crowds here, but really an opportunity to really come out and support the Oilers.
Yeah, the Saginaw Valley Findlay, I'm not sure it gets a whole lot bigger than that and a whole lot better. You're going to be close to the action. 2 awfully talented teams. Going to see some great athletes and some well-coached teams. I would say the entertainment value will be top-notch in both of these games. So I believe in our fans. I think they're going to come out. They're going to be loud, and we're going to need it.
All right, Coach. Well, best of luck this week.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's head coach Charlie Ernst. That's going to wrap up our time on center court. I want to remind you, Thursday game, the men's game will be at 7:30, the women's game at 5:30. We'll have pregame at 5:15. Encourage all fans to get on out to Croy and see how loud we can get that place. I want to remind you to follow us on air on Twitter at Oilers On Air. You've been enjoying Center Court with Charlie Ernst. I'm Jason Granger. This is 88.3 WLFC.
Martise can come around the screen, get in the lane, step back, jumper on the way. Got it. Offensive rebound, Alex White. Put back is good.
Thank you for listening to Center Court with Charlie Ernst.
Martise needs to pick it up, sends it ahead to Ricardo. Ricardo to Terrence Sullivan, who slams it down with one hand.
Tune in every Tuesday night during the season for your connection to Coach Ernst and Oiler men's basketball.
Back over to Alex White. Alex, kick out to Elijah. Nick will launch it from downtown. Nick Rusatz buries it from three.
This is your home for Oiler men's basketball. 88.3 WLFC.